Hi everyone, Fenris Models here, and today we're going to take a look at and then immediately dive into the build for the Gladiator from HobbyBoss in 1/72 scale. Now, as you can see, this is another one of their easy assembly kits, so the build's going to be pretty fast. So how about we go ahead and crack this guy on open, and let's go ahead and take a look at the parts. Alright, so first off, let's go ahead and peek into the instructions. As I've said before, this is an easy assembly, so we have all of 3 steps to do. We have the couple handful of pieces for the cockpit and the bottom wings to the fuselage. We have 2 different options for the prop, and I believe the main difference here is depending on which version of the Gladiator you're building. Some of them had this little cone-like cap put on the end of the prop there, and that was just to, aid in aerodynamics. I know there's a technical term for it. We'll figure that out later. By which I mean somebody's probably going to say in the comments specifically what the name difference is. But knowing which kind you're going to be building, whether it has the flat spinner or the more aerodynamic spinner, it's nice that they gave you the option. So, and then we have attaching the struts, for lack of a better term, for the upper wing, and put it on the upper wing itself, and the last couple pieces. So yeah, the kit does come with 2 separate decal schemes. We have this nice silver one, as well as this one in a dark sea gray, dark green camo scheme there, which I like both of them. I don't know that that's what I'm actually going to do. So we have our decals, which I'm leaving wrapped up in here because, they feel pretty good from what I can tell with keeping them in the plastic. But I did something new that I have not really done before, and I've picked up a set of third-party decals from Extra Decal. This is product code X72183. And it has a total of 8 different additional choices, including 2 finish, one for Chinese, one for Egyptian. I think this one's the one for Malta. And you can see a number of British ones there, of course. But let's take a look at the scheme I'm going to be doing. And now, the main reason why I've picked up this kit is I am entering into a Middle East group air build. So pretty much any type of vehicle, any conflict represented by the Middle East. A portrait of something that took part in a Middle East conflict. There we go. And so you see for this option scheme right here, we have L9033 of 5 Squadron from the Egyptian Air Force in 1940. So this will be the scheme that I'll be going with. You see you have dark earth and middle stone are the 2 camouflage colors. So forgive the paint on there. That was me kind of mixing up paints, trying to decide what was the best colors based off of what I had. And underneath we're gonna have the white and the black split. I believe. Hold on. Here's a quick little look at all the different schemes that it has in it, but there is the one that I'll be doing. And you can see that it's the half white, half black underneath. And the upper wings are going to be in silver on the underside. So yeah. Yeah, okay, so this does just say it's the streamlined spinner cap. So there we go. Yeah. So that's the one we're going to go with, which from the decals would be these ones right here. And again, this will be my first time ever working with Extra Decal. They feel really good. I like the way that they feel, but we'll see how well they go on when we get to that stage. But in the meantime, how about we go ahead and take a look at the parts. So first we have the canopy glass here. And I like how well defined the canopy frame is. You can really feel it. That'll be very nice and very easy to mask up compared to my last few kits I've done where they've not been great. I'm kind of looking forward to actually being able to do up some good canopy masking again. Then we have the bottom half of the fuselage here. You can see where the stretched fabric ridges are. Pretty well defined there. Got some good, if shallow, panel lines. So I may get in there with the scribing tool and kind of deepen them a little bit. I don't know. They're probably more in line with what they should be, but for models, again, I tend to prefer mine a little bit deeper, a little bit more pronounced, just to draw the eye to them. Otherwise, it's a little hard to see them, but I suppose that is probably more in scale, so I don't know. Kind of just have to make that decision, I guess, for yourself, what you prefer, which is better for you, for your model. I don't know that there's a right or a wrong answer there. It's more what works best for you. So, as I mentioned before, I do prefer mine having a little bit more of a bit of an exaggerated quality to things. So, we have our engine cowling and engine on the inside there. Seat. And there's our prop with the streamlined cap. And on the other side, the prop without it. And our wheels and strut pieces. And then finally the upper wing surface, our stabilizers, and what I assume to be more struts / supports. I'm not quite sure. So anyway, how about we dive on into the build? With my trusty sprue snips, I freed all of the pieces from their plastic prisms, taking care to place each on the instruction diagram where the part was located. Doing so helps prevent me from losing any small parts while also allowing me to know exactly where I am in each step at a quick glance. Any remaining gate marks were then cleaned away with a hobby blade. With the parts all clean, we can start the cockpit. Again, this kit has relatively little in the way of cockpit detail. A seat, control stick, and base are all fixed in place before getting closed up in the fuselage. Similar to other easy assembly kits from HobbyBoss, this one did not have a color callout for the cockpit. Online research led me to believe that the Gladiator would have been painted in RAF cockpit green. I don't know if the Egyptian ones would have also had this color, but without anything else to go with, I just decided it was good enough for me. The color I'm using here is Vallejo Mecha Color Olive Green 69.028. It's not actually all that olive green, but instead is probably the closest thing I have to RAF cockpit green without having to mix. Again, this is a bit of a guesstimate anyway though, so I'm fine with it. The head cushion was then picked out in model color chocolate brown, 70.872. With the cockpit painted, I could close it up and get the rest of the plane assembled. I did leave off the upper wing for ease of painting, otherwise it was going to be a bit difficult to get the airbrush in there. The last thing that needed doing before painting could start was masking the canopy. This was very simple to do with the nice and pronounced canopy frame. A piece of Tamiya masking tape was placed, and using a toothpick, I traced along the frame edge. Using a fresh hobby knife, I carefully cut along the lines. This way, if the cut accidentally went too deep and scarred the clear plastic below, it would just look like part of the frame molding. And then we can start airbrushing. Here, I started with my usual process of pre-shading. Using model color black, I shaded every panel line as well as any places where shadows may gather, such as at the corners where two surfaces meet or where any hard edges may appear. I like to keep this part a little messy to give some tonal variation to the colors that will be applied next. From there, I like to either work light to dark or bottom to top. Usually the two coincide, but not always. In this case, Model Air Insignia White 71.279 was sprayed on one half of the bottom of the plane. This coat was applied light enough for the pre-shading to show through, but dense enough to get full coverage. It was allowed to dry and start to cure, then a strip of tape was run down the center line. Black was next applied to the other half of the bottom. And the bottom side of the top wing got a coat of metal color silver 77.724. The remainder of the plane was then painted in a mix of model color ochre brown 70.856, Model Air Tan Earth 71.079, and a drop of flat red. Unfortunately, I did not write this ratio down, but I want to say it was something like 15 to 3 to 1, something like that. This was also applied to the upper wing surface. With my painting guide open just off screen, I carefully freehanded the edges of the camouflage patterning. This was done in Model Air 71.079 Tan Earth, and once each section was marked off, the pattern was then carefully filled in. It's very important here to go slow and take your time. This footage is sped up for the sake of the YouTube video format, but one of the last things you want to do is go too heavy-handed here. Slowly build your color with each pass, and it makes all the difference in the final finish. Once the airbrushing had dried and begun to cure, I could remove the masking tape and assemble the last few pieces together. Once all the cement had dried, it was time to do cleanup and detail painting. There were a handful of spots of overspray that needed touching up, primarily along the center line where the black and white met. Then I picked out the cowling and exhaust in Citadel Base Balthasar Gold, the spinner cap in flat red, the spinner and wheels in black, and the engine in silver. A quick trip outside to get some Testors Extreme Lacquer Wet Look Clear for decal prep, and we can move on to, well, the decals. A quick soak in water and the decals were ready to be applied. I was quite happy with the quality of these extra decals. Again, I've never used third-party decals before, so I was a little cautious, but I'd heard good things about extra decals, so I wasn't too worried. And that was kind of a lot of time saying decals in a row. I'm sorry. Once each decal was in place, a cotton bud was used to soak up any water and press any air out from underneath. Happy with the decals and their placement, I could then move on to panel lining. Using Tamiya panel line accent color brown, I simply tagged each panel line and let the capillary action pull the ink through. The brown was a nice choice, I think, because it's still visible on the black portion as well as the white and the camo patterning. It really tied everything together, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments below if you think this was a good move or if I should have used black instead. Cleanup was light work with a cotton bud damp with artist white spirit. This is the odorless stuff and is a great alternative if you, like me, work in a small space and must be careful of smelly chemical compounds. I took the kit out one last time to get some Mr. Super Clear matte varnish, and that's when disaster struck. The propeller gave way while spraying, causing the kit to fall about 4 feet to dirty concrete, with fresh, wet coat of varnish. Luckily, not much dirt got on the kit and stuck in the varnish, but it did break and the top did receive a nasty gash in the paint. That's okay though, nothing a little creativity can't fix. Happy little accidents and all that. Now, since the upper wing would have been canvas stretched over wooden spars, I didn't bother trying to remove the paint that had bunched up together. Instead, we'll be using this as part of our fix. I'm thinking something like bullets ripping through the canvas but getting lodged in the spars, something like that. I took a little bit of the chocolate brown and painted in where the paint had peeled. I also picked out a couple other places to further sell the damage as something natural. A little black was added and painted in a few spots to create some illusion of depth. Then a mix of tan earth, white, and flat flesh were then used to pick out where the canvas may have bunched up after the damage, aka where the paint had peeled to. And finally, some raw umber oil paint was blended in with white spirit for some scorch marks / distressed canvas. Well, what do you think? I think it sells the idea pretty well myself. A quick reattachment of parts and we can attempt the final matte varnish for the second time. And then of course remove the canopy masking. I did need to clean up the masking a little with a cocktail stick where some paint had linked under, but once that was done, I think we can call this one complete. I'm quite proud of this one. Believe it or not, but this was my first biplane build I've ever attempted, and I think it turned out pretty good. I'm particularly proud of how the battle damage turned out. That wasn't something I was planning on doing, but it was a fun little challenge. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the build, and what you would like to see me work on in the future. I have a number of armor builds coming soon, I think, which will be a set of challenges all on their own. Thank you to Alex of Man's Model Moments for joining as a starter set tier patron over on Patreon, as well as another big thank you to Cali Bear for his continued support as a gift set tier patron. You guys are awesome. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, all those things that please the eldritch entity known as the algorithm. If you would like to watch more of my content, maybe check out this video here. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week with another video, and until then, stay safe and keep modeling.